Sorry, we started the shir a little earlier and we forgot to press record. I thought I'll press record earlier and I'll remember, and I paused it. So we're talking about the lives. I'm just going to repeat this last point. The life of Sarah Imenu Kulan Shavim Letova. Her entire life was good. That her perspective was to see the good in everything, not to be in criticism, not to see the negative, which is the nature of a person. Ki yetzer lev adam ra min nehorav. The nature of a person is to be bad, to do bad. When we're children, we do, we're involved with things that are not necessarily with midot tovot, and we learn midot tovot. But this was intrinsic in Sarah, that she was able to see the good and the perspective of good in everything that happened. And if we think about her life, that was quite challenging, right? We think about, just the beginning of her life, a life of avodah zarah, leaving her home, leaving her comfort zone, not being able to have a child. Everybody else had children around her, right? But yet opening up herself to chesed, right? Being a wanderer, packing, unpacking, packing, unpacking. Where am I going? I don't know. Who can do such a thing? Okay, I can attest that I did that a few times in my life. Like pack, unpack, storage. And then Chasdei Hashem, I landed here. I'm in Eretz Yisrael, Baruch Hashem, in Eretz HaKodesh. But just this fact of being in a life of turmoil, of not knowing of what's going to be. Am I going to get married? And then I get married. Am I going to have a child? Where am I going to live? What's my job? What's my purpose? What's my yi'ud? What's my mission in life? Sarah never questioned it. She lived kulan shavin letova. They were all equal. All her years were equal in the way she viewed things and the way she took challenge. She lived her life with simcha. We see that because she was always mekarevet, right? It says, Abraham mekarevet ha'anashim, Sarah mekarevet et ha'anashim. Sarah brought closer the women, right? Her home was always a home of giving. And she made this conscious effort. I don't think that it came necessarily easily for her because she didn't come from that, right? She made this conscious effort of constantly being a giver. And maybe this is something that we have to learn. Through chesed, we grow. Stretching ourselves, the concept of stretching ourselves beyond our limits is chesed. Chesed, of course, begins at home with our own children, with our husbands, with ourselves. We have to care for ourselves. We have to see the good in ourselves, not be in self-criticism. And then when we're positive, we imbue positivity in our home and the way we speak and the way we conduct ourselves. And we have to realize this is malchut. This is greatness. And we're going to talk about this, how Sarah was zocha to this greatness because she gave. When we give, when we stretch, when we go beyond our means, even if we don't feel like it, we grow. We change. Our attitude changes. We become positive people. We want to see the good. We want to reflect on the good. And that's why it says, Kulan shavim letova, for good. She always had the perspective, and we learn this right from Nachumish Gamzu letova. And Rabbi Akiva also represented that, right? That also this is for the good. Why also this? Gamzu letova. Because we have a choice. We have a choice how we see something. Is the cup half full or is the cup half empty, right? Am I able to take myself out of my emptiness and see the fullness, to see the good, to see the chesed that I can do and that I can give? The Ben Ish Chai says a beautiful thing. Shnei Chayei Sarah, Shnei could be shanim, years of Sarah's life. Shnei could be shnaim, 2, double life. What's this double life? When you say somebody lived a double life, it means that they weren't exactly who they were supposed to be. What's this double life? This is the concept of what we said, that we can be in a bitter, negative state, or we can be in kedusha. And she chose that in her state, in her sadness, in her sorrow of not having a child, of not having a home, of not having, she chose to see the good. She chose to see the positivity. Let me see if I could just read a little bit to you that. Oh, there was the Ben Ish Chai tells us One second. He says that every woman's capacity has the capacity to lead a double life. That's the nature of a woman. The natural tendency, right? The life that she was handed from above, and then the life that she chooses to live. That's what he says. The life that she chooses to live. This is the life that we live with emunah, right? When you choose to see the good, you're choosing to see Yad Hashem. En od milvado. I'm not in control. We think, oh, we're cooking, we're cleaning, we're doing the laundry, I'm my house, this is my territory. All of a sudden, we bake our cake, it doesn't come out good. I did the laundry the other day, forgot to put soap. You ever have that? You're like so busy doing like 3 things, and then I'm like, wait, did I put soap in the laundry? I'm like, oh, gotta wash it again. And it's like when things don't go our way, we lose that sense of control, and because we think we're in control. But honestly, we really know that we're not in control. That everything we do is with a tefillah. This is the koch of women, to infuse tefillah, to infuse kedusha, to see that everything is really Yad Hashem. And then when things go wrong, we're able to have a different perspective. We're not so disappointed in a sense because we know that Bezrat Hashem yeh tov. That shidduch didn't work out for my son, for my daughter. We don't have regrets. We don't look back. We don't, get swayed by that negative motion, that voice inside our head that says, oh, you did it again. Here you go. You failed again, Because if you believe, if you have emunah, if you hold on to emunah, to the ein od milvado, that's gadlut. That's malchut. And you're connected to a higher realm and you grow from it. You realize that everything that happens to me, I grow from. We spoke about it last week with Avram's tests, the different tests of Avram and Sarah that they went through. So there's a mashal here that the Ben Ish Chai brings. It's just a mashal, so just remember that at the end of the story, of a pair of Siamese twins. And they had this like quarrel. They had this like battle within them. One twin wanted to get married, the other twin didn't want to get married. How you get married? Because we got attached, you know what I'm saying? She insisted, no, I'm not getting married. So they decided to go to town and they go and ask advice. What should we do? So it's a very serious problem, he tells them. It's very, very bad. It's bad news, So he says to them, okay, both of you sit on the floor. Not both of you. Sit on the floor. They're connected. And he turns to the twin who didn't want to marry. And he says, get up. And of course, she wants to stand up, but the other twin's sitting. Can't get up. She couldn't. The weight of the other sister was dragging her down. So he turns to the other twin, who's determined to get married, and he says to her, get up. And she was so determined that she pulled herself away from the other sister, and with such strength. And then she was finally free to get married. So I told you it's a mashal. It's like you can't pull us apart. But really, what is this? This is us. We always have this struggle of like, no, get up, start your day, let's go, let's get going, start moving. I have a lot of things to do. And the other side of us like, no, I just want to stay in bed. Leave me alone. I need another hour's sleep, right? And that, of course, can go throughout our day. No, go do that mitzvah. No, come on, you could do it. Nah, so I don't know. I don't know if she wants to hear from me. I don't know if I'm capable. I don't know if I can do this. It's the Yetzer Tov and the Yetzer Hara, right? Kulan shavin letova. She was able to live Shnei Chayei Sarah, a double life of insisting to see the good and to try to push herself to do the good, even with the trouble that she went through, even with the suffering that she went through, even with the challenge that she went through. And this is the koch of a woman, the koch of the em, is to hold on to emunah, to hold on to ayin tova, to see things in a positive light. And it's an avodah. This is not something that always comes naturally to everybody. Some people have to take medication to be in a positive state of mind. So I was just looking at an article not a Jewish article even. It was talking about antidepressants versus mindfulness and how they compare. And it was saying that they did a study, and they said when a person is more mindful, closes his eyes, learns to relax, he can get to the same state as when they take a medication to help their body. That the biochemistry, right, that changes in a person. And they were saying that they did a study and they showed that just being in a state of calm, mindfulness, connecting to something higher, a person can achieve that same high, that same simcha. And unfortunately, people are sold to medication today. And if you needed, chas v'shalom, a person should always, of course, consult with a doctor, consult with their Rav. I'm not judging anyone, but I'm just saying that we can work on ourselves to achieve this state of being able to live a life of mindfulness, of who I am, what am I doing, what does Hashem want from me, and it's okay. One of the things, I'm a life coach, and one of the things I learned, the state of being, we're so scared of being where we're at. We have to learn to accept ourselves. We have to learn to accept where we're at. When we're not fighting, when there's no resistance, then we're able to go further, and we're able to work on our midot. We're able to work on certain aspects of ourselves. When we're fighting, oh, I shouldn't be this way. I should feel this way. No, this is what I feel right now. It's a state of being. I'm supposed to be. I'm supposed to, this is what Hashem wants from me right now. When we accept ourselves where we're at, we're able to work on everything step by step. Stop with the resistance. And we live this life because unfortunately we grow up like this sometimes in the school system, right? You have to do this, and right now we have to do that, and you can't do this, right? Davening is only from a sitter. You have to say the words out loud right now. I don't feel like it. I don't want to. And we live with this guilt, People carry a lot of guilt. I once met a lady, and one of the retreats I went to, and she was maybe in her 70s, and she was carrying this guilt from her childhood. I'm thinking like, wow, so many years to live with such sadness and such ill will. We have to learn to forgive ourselves. We have to learn to live with a calmness and accept where we're at. And daven. We're about to start. We're going to have a tefillah series that I'm starting Bezrat Hashem tomorrow. You're welcome to join me. Please reach out to me if you want to join. And this is one of the things, is that we need to learn that there's a koach that we have, tremendous power that Hashem gives us as women, especially, to be connected. Shasani kirtzono, Hashem made me like His will, to ask from Hashem, to thank Hashem, to ask from Hashem, to be connected and make a relationship with Hashem. And everything that we do, and I speak about this a lot in my shiurim, because I strongly believe that people don't understand this concept of that we can make a difference with our tefillah. And tefillah, again, is not just the siddur. It's a relationship, making and forging a relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that's what we're going to talk about in my tefillah series. It's a big thing. Pinka says, there's Rabbi Nachman, a lot of the Sfarim talk about this. Tefillah is really connecting to our higher selves by connecting to the one above, by connecting to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So we spoke about this double life, right, that we sort of live. And we have to learn to make that life, we said, letovah. So it's interesting, there's another double lashon in this parsha. What's the double lashon? What happens after she dies, after Sarah Imenu dies? And I want to talk about that also, of her death as well. Abraham goes to look for a place to bury her, right? And where does he end up burying her? What's it called? Ma'arat HaMachpelah. Ma'arat HaMachpelah, the cave of the double. That's what it's called. Lachpil means kaful, right? Times, double. Why? So one pshat we know is that in Ma'arat HaMachpelah, kfulot bezugot, excuse me, that it was double, like there were many couples, right? It was double couples that were buried there. We know Adam and Chava, Avram and Sarah, Yitzchak and Rivka, and Yaakov and Leah. Unfortunately, we spoke about Rachel last week, that she wasn't zocha to be buried there. We're going to talk about that, why, in a sense, there's a reason for it here. This is the double, right? That it says they were the perfect zivug, and they were meshalim, that each other complemented, they each complemented each other, that they were zoche to get to the level of a complete zivug, of a zivug shalem, that they merited to be buried there. It wasn't stam. And we're going to see another lashon kefel, right? Double. There's a concept, I think it's in the Gemara, that says Bait ve'aliyah. Bait ve'aliyah. Bait is the lower house. Aliyah is the upper house. What's the Bait? The Bait is Olam Hazeh. And Aliyah, the higher part of the house, right, is Olam Haba. And this is our whole life. That the Bait is a shichpul, is a copy. In Hebrew, shichpul is a copy of the aliyah, of the upper house. That whatever life you live in Olam Hazeh is, so to speak, copied in Olam Haba. That living in Olam Hazeh is completely for the sake of Olam Haba. And we know that. We don't live here to live here. Like, you know what I'm saying? You can't really live here to live here. Because if we didn't have a higher purpose, sometimes life would have absolutely no meaning, because there's so much challenge, there's so much difficulty, there's so much someone's going through. But when you live a life of Olam Haba, which is Tzara Imenu, and all these special zugot that were, it's really, in essence, it's two different explanations of the word Machpelah, but really they're connected. Because all these couples had a shlemut in their zivug, because they lived in a higher realm. They lived for Olam Haba, right? And they complemented each other, so to speak. This was the perfect zivug, and we see this in the Mefarshim explains a woman has to be an ezer kenegdo. She has to complement her husband to be an ezer, to bring him to Olam Haba. But she has to be negdo, kenegdo, means she's mitnagedet to what? To just him being in Olam Hazeh. She doesn't want her husband to just be sitting in the physicality, so to speak, of this world. She wants him to strive higher. Go learn, go to a shir, go daven, right? Who wants to see a husband in bed? You know, like, go do something with your life, right? Go work. Ezer, so we have this concept also, the sur mera ve'aseh tov. The sur mera is the kenegdo. The aseh tov is the ezer. That she's megadelet banav leTorah, lematzim tovim. She's the ezer, and she's sur mera. She prevents her husband from going astray, from being involved with the yetzer hara, with chataim, with negativity, and that her whole being is being able to take the positivity of this world and to elevate it towards striving for higher, right? Striving for ruchniyut. That's not just the physical. Even your home, when you decorate your home, it should be beautiful. Why? Because it's a mikdash me'at. But I want, when people should come, they should see the beauty of a home, of a Jewish home. It's not gashmiut. It's how your perspective is. If all you care about is that people are going to say, "Oh wow, it's so gorgeous, it's so beautiful," no, that's not ruchniyut. But if the whole purpose is that you should be kadeshem shamayim, you know, that you buy a dish. I remember learning from Rebbetzin Yeager. She was Rav Freifeld Zatzal's daughter from Shar Yashuv in New York, Far Rockaway, New York. He started Shar Yashuv Yeshiva. And she's a tremendous woman. She's such malchut, such greatness. Every time she speaks, it's like pearls of wisdom. And the way she speaks, she's so eloquent. If you ever heard her. So Rebbetzin Yeager said, we have to have kedusha. In everything that we do, we have to bring kedusha. And she said she would go to like these what do you call it? Like vintage stores, but not vintage stores, like stores that like secondhand, but like better quality stuff. I forgot what they're called.
Charity shops or
Not charity shops. Like a place that sells like
A
secondhand, but
boutique shop. A
like a
boutique shop.
yeah, like a boutique shop. And she would pick up like these gorgeous pieces, like a dish, a gorgeous dish, or like, a teacups, and and she would say, this is, for my home to beautify. There should be more. She said everything you pick up. And she said she saw a beautiful doll there. It wasn't China, it was like a doll, I think she saw. And she said this doll was dressed so gorgeous, so beautifully, so regal. And she said it reminded her of us as women. She says, on one hand, we have this child inside of us that wants to like be involved in, the day to day, just to be busy with like, the gashmiut. But yet she was dressed with such malchut, such royalty. And she said it reminded her of women, of the azut dikdusha. Azut, that she had, the doll had like a face, like chutzpah. She had like a chutzpah, that's her face, but yet she was dressed so beautifully and regally. And she said, this is us. We have to have azut diktusha. We're not supposed to feel like we're nothing. We're supposed to feel good, to feel great as women, because we're utilizing it, whatever we have, for greatness. This is who Sarah was. Sarah's name meant malchut. She was Sarah. She was the queen, right? She was a Sarah. She was the servant of Hashem. She used her kedusha. She used, her gashmiut to elevate a b'kedusha. That everything she did was this concept. And this is the lashon of, we said, kaful, kfula, right? Kaful. We're talking back to Ma'arat HaMachpelah. That these were all these couples, that they were able to take the physical and elevate it. And this is the koach that we have. Again, the perspective and what we do with it, and our intention in bringing things into our home, in representing and dressing a certain way. What am I doing it for? What's my intention, right? My intention is to elevate, to do it l'shem shamayim, to do it for my husband, to do it for my family, to do it for my mikdash me'at, that this is my sanctuary, and I want to elevate it. And we see this with Sarah, that Sarah was mashlimet Avraham Avinu in perfection. And so too all of the zugot who were buried in Ma'arat HaMachpelah. Now it's interesting. We're talking about the kedusha of the unity, right? And really, we're told something interesting. And this is what I was telling you: the elevation of the good, elevation of something in this world. So we're told that when Abraham went to get Ma'arat HaMachpelah, he acquired it. He bought it from Ephron. We know he was back and forth with him. Give me this. No, don't give me. Give me, don't give me. And we see that Abraham didn't want to have any second guesses. He paid him money. He said, I want it to be mine. We see till today they're fighting with us, right? That they share. There's certain times that we're not allowed to go because it's their holiday and they go to Ma'arat HaMachpelah. Because Abraham wanted, he wanted to know that this is his. So we're told this kinyan, we learn this, the kinyan of buying, acquiring something, about a woman and a man. That a man, when he marries a woman, according to in the Kiddushin, it says he's koneh isha, that he's koneh her with kesef. Now, it doesn't sound so nice, right? Hashem, like a man's acquiring a woman, but it's in a sense that she belongs to him. So what does he give her? We know he gives her a tabat. Today we have a ring that it's shaveh something, and the rabbi says this shaveh pluta, it's worth something. And of course, the edim look at it, the witnesses look at it, they say, of course, yeah, this is shaveh something. So then the kiddushim is valid, right? The marriage is valid. So we learn this with Ephron. It says, kicha misdei Ephron. The taking, right, that we learn of taking something is from Ephron. That Avram acquired the sadeh from Ephron with money. So to in Kiddushin, you marry a woman with a tabat, which is shaveh kesef. Why dafka do we learn this from the burial place that Avram chose to buy for Sarah Imenu. The Gemara in Baba Batra tells us, Avraham becheko shel Sarah, that Avram is together with Sarah in Ma'arat HaMachpelah, that the two are buried together. We know in Kiddushin, there's two half souls that come together, right? It says that in this world, they're two separate bodies. But when they're buried together, it says there's no body, there's no separation. They're one soul, they complete each other. They go back to that one neshama. In this world, there are two halves, right? In this world. But in Olam Haba, the two neshamot are united, so to speak, like Avraham and Sarah were in the Ma'arat HaMachpelah. He wanted to be buried with her. And this is the tachlit, this is the purpose of Kiddushim, the yichud of the Baal and the Isha, the oneness, the unity, the union of a woman and a man. This is the Kedusha, right? And this of course, we try to strive towards that in this world, right? The zivug of a woman and a man. But in Olam Haba, there's no separation. There's no barriers. And they're able to complete themselves. So we spoke about Rachel before. We know Rachel was not worthy of being buried. I don't say worthy, but she wasn't supposed to be buried in Ma'arat HaMachpelah. It says Rachel mevaka al banea. She should be crying over her children. She's constantly there for us, to be there for Am Yisrael, to be a support to Am Yisrael. And Hashem promises her sachar. Yaakov Avinu, so to speak, knew this, the Ruach HaKodesh. Because when Yaakov met Rachel the first time, what does it say? He kissed her and he cried. Meet her, he's kissing her, he's happy. Why is he crying? Because he saw that she wouldn't be buried with him. That zivug, that yichud will not be, right, without barriers, would not be complete, like we said, that a man and a woman, that zivug is shalem when they're buried together. But there is a purpose to this, because Rachel Imenu, it says, Bochal baneha. What is she bocha? She's crying that Bnei Yisrael should have a home, should have a place. It says that Rachel is representative of the Bet HaMikdash, that in the future, she will be reunited with Yaakov, right? What does that symbolize? That when Klal Yisrael are in Eretz Yisrael, and we'll have the Bet HaMikdash, then that'll be completion. That'll be the reunification. That will be the aliyah to the Shekhinah. And there's going to be a higher zivug between Rachel and Yisrael. Yisrael is Yaakov. So we see how beautiful it is that there's a purpose to Rachel, to be able to come to that she shall daven, that Shavu banim ligvulam, that everyone's going to come home, that we will have the Bet HaMikdash, and the Bnei Yisrael are going to return, and we'll have the Bet HaMikdash, and then there'll be shlemut zivug, us, Yisrael, right? And Kudsha Brichu, right? Chadhu, they'll become one. Bezrat Hashem. So it was not for naught that Rachel was not buried there. We're talking about Ephron. This is a deeper concept. We're talking about Ephron, and where did Avraham, what did he buy this Ma'arat HaMachpelah? In Hebron. Hebron is Lashon Chibur, right? With a nun, right? Hebron. The nun, we know in Gematria is 50. There's 50 Sha'arei Bina. There's 50 levels of Kedusha that a person can climb. And Moshe Rabbeinu, right, was able to reach that. Well, nobody can reach that 50th level. We know there was 49 Sha'arei Tuma, right? And we had to climb that up after, before Matan Torah, to be able to achieve the Kedusha in Har Sinai, to be able to have the oneness with Hashem, to be able to receive the Torah. The Bnei Yisrael had to get rid of that Tuma. Ephron is Afar Nun. Right? Ephron is Afar Nun. Afar is the dust, the lowest level of the 50th, right? And this Nun, Sha'arei Tumah, the Tachlit of Eretz Yisrael, is to be Chibur Nun, to climb to the 50th, Lechaber et Nun shel Sha'arei Bina, to be able to climb to the 50th level of Kedusha. Hebron also recalled in the Rashi, it says Tkuma, that's the place of Aliyah. That's the place of climbing up. That's the beginning when it says the Meraglim went through Hebron, right, to daven the schut of the Avot there. Because Avram Avinu bought Hebron, he elevated it b'kedusha. He raised it. It says, "Ve'yakom sadeh Ephron." That this place of a tzaddik, when a tzaddik goes to a place, he's able to bring it to a makom of chibur, a makom of kedusha, nun sharei bina, right? And that's why, what do? Everybody's going to be going this Shabbat to Ma'at HaMachpelah. Okay, not everybody, but a lot of people are going there, right? Because when we daven and whenever we go there, it's not only the Shabbat, the zchut of the tzaddikim and the zchut of the merit of them elevating something that's so lowly. Usually nun is nofel, and ashrei, it doesn't say nun, because nun is nefilah, nun is dragging us down, but we can elevate it through what? Again, our tefillah. Right? And the zchut of tzaddikim, the zchut of Abraham, who was buried in Ma'at HaMachpelah. It's a big zchut. I was zochet to go there in Elul, right before the Chagim, to be able to daven there. It's really a big zchut. There's so much to say. So this is the aliyah. We're talking about the anava, the humility, right? And the malchut. So we see that we spoke about Hebron and Ephron. We spoke about Sarah and her gadlut and elevating that which is low and bringing it up. We spoke about the zivug, right? That we're able to be mitchaber, we're able to be mashlim one another. There's a lot of this lashon of aliyah. Even in the story, it's late, so I'm not going to get into all the details, but the story of Eliezer, is also teaching us a very important lesson. The first time I learned this, the Rabbeinu B'chaya brings that the whole sipur of Eliezer finding Rivka to marry Yitzchak is also the union, which union? Of us and Hashem, of Matan Torah. Because it's interesting, in the Psukim it says that Eliezer went and he met her and he gave her tzmidim, right? He gave her the zamim, the jewelry. And then afterwards he says to her, who are you? Where are you from? Why is he giving her all this stuff? He didn't know yet where she was from. And then later on, the story is repeated. And the reason it's repeated, there's nothing that is like for no reason in the Torah. Like every single word that's in the Torah. And why is it repeating the story? To show us how important the story is. So important. The inyan of chesed, the inyan of giving, of natina, and who she was. And she was going to be the Em of Israel. So important. In any case, later on when it's repeated, when he goes to Lavan and he asks for her to marry Yitzchak, he tells her the story, but he doesn't tell the order, the same order. He says he asked her who she was, and then he gave her the jewelry. So like, what's pshat? So the Rabbeinu B'chaya says, it's like Matan Torah. When Bnei Yisrael came to receive the Torah, they said, Na'aseh v'nishma. They didn't ask questions. They did. They accepted. They took upon themselves the mitzvot. All the other nations came and said, oh, what's in it? Oh, can't steal? Sorry, we can't live like that. Oh, we can't murder? Sorry, we can't live like that. We don't ask questions. When you want something of Kedusha, you don't ask questions. And this was Sarah, we said, right? She didn't ask questions. She accepted. That's malchut. That's greatness. And so to Bnei Israel, they accepted the Torah, the jewelry. Just to give you an example, what he says, he speaks about it at length. It says was like the tzmidim, they were double. There were two of them, like the luchot. The Rashi brings it down. The luchot, the representative of the luchot, that was the Matan Torah. It says shavin, they were equal, just like one side, ben adam lechavero, ben adam lemakom, but they were equal. And so this is the remes to Aseret HaDibrot. And then the second time, why was it in a different order? Because we know what happened. When Bnei Yisrael sinned with Chet HaEgel, and Moshe had to get kapara, the second set of luchot were not on the same level as the first set of luchot, right? It wasn't the same. So therefore, it says, it switches the order, to show us that there was kapara, the luchot were broken, there was kapara, and we had accepted it. But we first had to go through that, that lower state to be able to get to the higher state. So why are we saying this? I was learning it over with my husband, and I'm like, okay, what's the message? And he's like, what do you mean? That's the pshat, like that's the Torah. I'm like, okay, but what's the message I'm supposed to share with the ladies? He's like, I don't understand. I'm like, don't you know women's Torah? We have to like learn something from this, you know? I was like, it's very nice. Okay, it's very nice, very interesting. He was laughing, but then he goes, what do you mean? He understood it in his head, but then he finally came out. Ma'aseh avot siman lebanim, right? That whatever the avot did was a siman for us. Everything we said is written down for a purpose. Even the repetition of everything here there was a purpose to it for us to learn from it. Everything that was written in the Torah is for us to learn from, and we see this very clearly in the way Rivka was zoche, to be able to become the mother. We know also that the mother of Am Yisrael, and who she had to be, right? It's not stam, just anybody. It had to be from a family that was representative, and she wasn't really from a family like that, but who she was, representative of Chesed, the same family was going to say of Abraham, of Yitzchak, that her mother was zoche to have such kedusha in her home. It says there are 3 mitzvot in this week's parasha that we're told that Sarah was very careful in, because she was zoche to have 3 nisim that happened for her, right? And this week's parasha is when we learn about the 3 mitzvot of a woman. So they're actually, the acronym of it is Chana, right? We'll talk about that in a minute. Chana is Chala, Nida, and Hadlakat Nerot. So the mitzvah of Afrashat Chala is the mitzvah that we have as women. Nida is Taharat HaMishpacha, right? That we have to be careful with the purity of the home. The woman represents that, right? In Yom Mikveh. And Shalom, that she brings into her home. And the last one is Hadlakat Nerot, lighting the Shabbat candles. How do we see this? We know that when Rivka came into the tent of Sarah, all 3 nisim that happened for Sarah came back. And that was like, she's the right one. She's the one that Yitzchak's supposed to marry, right? Because the challah, the bread was fresh from Erev Shabbat to Erev Shabbat. Candles stayed lit from Erev Shabbat to Erev Shabbat. And we know that the Anan, the cloud, which was representative of Taharat HaMishpacha, the cloud of Hashem, was on top of her tent, hovering over her tent to represent the Shechina. The Shechina was there. We carry a tremendous weight, in a sense, as women, because we are able to bring the Shechina in our home. How do we approach these mitzvot? How do we do a mitzvah that Hashem says, this is our special mitzvah, right? A man could do a Parashat Chala. He doesn't get the mitzvah of doing a Parashat Chala in the same way that a woman does. So even if your husband bakes chalas, you should try to do that frasha. There's a woman who once told me that her husband baked challah, like her house. I'm like, okay, that's nice. Okay, but I think you should do it like a little bit, this is your mitzvah. You get the schar for this, because the woman is nourishing. She's giving to her home. She gives the food. But that also could be not only food, physical food, the spirituality. Spirituality of the home is the mother. She's the one who carries tremendous weight, right? Taharat HaMishpacha. We are like our own posek, right? That we can go and we can decide, is this good, not good? Of course, when we have a question, we go to a Rav. We have a she'elat Rav. But Hashem gives us that imun, because a woman would never want, chas v'chalila, to bring her home down. She wouldn't want, chas v'chalila, to be second class in her home, right? Everything that we bring to our home should have kedusha. So if we're the one who's in charge of the purity, right? We don't have to ask. We're the ones who are edim, to what we're doing. We decide. We see. Am I clean? Am I not clean? Right? And the same thing in everything that we bring into our home, the kedusha. Is this book appropriate for my children? Should I bring this into the home? Should I not? Should my husband see this magazine? Maybe I should throw it out. We are the ones that do the sifting, right? We are our own Rav, so to speak. Of course, again, we always should ask a she'elat Rav if we don't know something. We should get advice from tzaddikim and chachamim. But Hashem tells us that we carry this tremendous, responsibility, so to speak. And we shouldn't take it lightly, because Hashem entrusted in us, because we have that sense, that chush. The mother, we see with Sarah, she had a chush. Right? She said, get Yishmael out of here. He's bad influence for my son. I don't want this. I don't want the tumah. And Hashem even says that she has a higher level. Shema b'kolah. Listen to her. Even higher it says than Avraham Avinu. She understood. She had that sense. We have that sense. We have that second sense, like the really of knowing and understanding what's good and what's not good. And that was Chala, Nida, and Hadlakat Haner. We bring light into our home, in the way we represent ourselves, in the way we carry ourselves, in our Simchat Chaim, and putting on a smile, even though if we don't feel like it, and getting up with energy and infusing that with our kids. You know, a woman, she gets up in the morning, starts singing, you know, waking up her kids, you know, and then another woman's like screaming her head off, get up, get up, get up. How are her kids going to get up, right? And of course, we have these days, you know, that we sometimes are in that screaming mode. That's okay. Talking to myself. But we have to work on ourselves, because it's our perspective that really builds our home. And my kids tell me even now, you know, when they're adults, and they say, oh, here's that Ema voice. You know, here's that nagging Ema voice that they want to say, like, hello, get up. You know, like they remember it, you know. So what do we want our kids to remember? We want our kids to remember the positivity, the goodness, that, you know, that everything that we do in our home, really we're imbuing it. And even if you don't have kids at home, you're surrounded by, you know, people always, like whether we go to work, whether, you know, with our friends, when we're involved, whatever we're involved with the cloud, that who we are, what we do, how we conduct ourselves, we have to be elevating them for the good, to see the good. And it starts within ourselves, you know, as women. It starts with kedusha that we bring into our home, and we imbue our home with this kedusha, azut kedusha, and understanding that we have a tremendous koach, you know, and then we're zoche. So Sarah was zoche, that the candle stayed lit, the bread was fresh, right? And Hashem's Shechina was there. Who doesn't want the Shechina should be in their home? So I happen to have a friend who speaks about the Shabbos Queen Project, it's called, and she speaks about going into Shabbat with a mindset, and entering Shabbat, trying to take Shabbat in 10 minutes early, that it starts really the beginning of the week. It's one of the things I wanted to take upon myself this year, to be able to really have that mindset in our head, that every day is preparation for Shabbat. Just like we say in the Mizmor Shir, Liyom HaShabbat, Hayom Yom Rishon b'Shabbat, Hayom Yom Sheni b'Shabbat. Every day we have to be building up towards Shabbat. When we come to Shabbat, especially now, it's so early, it's so hard, you know, like we don't have time, we're always rushing. But when we set ourselves up and we are in that mode of, oh, what am I buying for Shabbat today? Well, maybe I should make the salad today. Maybe I'm going to bake challahs before, because there's no time. There's no time, especially if you have little kids at home, you know, if you're working, you know. So this is something to strive for, to be able to have peace in the home. Also is the way we do things, you know. Sometimes I'm belachatz, you know, I don't even realize, like I'm so upset, I'm so angry, I'm so tense, you know, like, don't come into the kitchen, you know, leave me alone, let me finish. But if we're in our mindset already in a peaceful, calm state, because we've prepared in advance, right? And that's the lighting of the candles and the baking of the bread. When we bake bread, it's a big inyan to daven. It's an et ratzon. The 3 mitzvot of a woman are times of et ratzon, that we have to really daven, right? When a woman goes to the mikvah, like, that's the time, it's an opportunity to daven for your children, daven for your husbands, daven for your grandchildren, daven for your home, right? For Am Yisrael, for the Kedusha of Am Yisrael, for Beit HaMikdash to be rebuilt. Every time you light candles, when you make the bread, it's an opportunity. There's a whole inyan, even in baking bread. Maybe we'll do a Parashat Challah together here. We did it last year on Zoom with my friend Sarah Liba, and we spoke about each one of the ingredients. There's a special tefillah to say. When you're putting in the kemach, it's siman leparnasa, Hashem shikves parnasa tova, shmarim, yeast is Hashem yishmor otanu mikol davar ra, sugar, metikut adinim, Hashem should be mamtik adinim, sweeten the judgment. Each one of the ingredients, mayim, shefa, and bracha, all these things, when we're putting this in our food, and even if you're not baking bread, even if you're making a cake, even if you're, you know, I'll tell you a quick story, you know, if you're cooking even. So I once heard of Ben Lulu. He speaks on the radio, Radio Alpine here in Israel. They had him, they did a live stream in America at the time I was living in America. And he was saying, you know, everything I taste in my grandmother's house is delicious. Everything. So I'm like, Safta, how can it be? Everything you make, especially for Shabbat, it's like so good. He says, bni, כל דבר אני עושה, אני מכניסה קדושה. What did she tell him? Everything I do, I put in קדושה. She says, I wake up in the morning, אני קם בבוקר, אני לוקחת כוס של מים, ואני מברכת, ברוך אתה השם, שהכל נהיה בדברו. I make a blessing on the cup, right? שהכל נהיה בדברו. And then I take some and I put some in the dag, I put some in the in the chamin, I put some in the chicken. And she's like, whoa, what does she do? She takes the cup, she makes a bracha on it, and then she puts a little bit in each of the tafshins. What did she do, really? What is she saying? That she's elevating something with kedusha, right? And that's us women. When we're cooking, the chvot Shabbat Kodesh, that my children should be nourished, that it should be healthy, that it should taste good, that my husband should like it, that my children should love it, that they should get nourishment from it, and, should give them energy. And my guests, Bezrat Hashem. When we do this, this is again tefillah of the woman. We're elevating it. We're raising it b'kedusha. This is the koach. We said to take from the lower and to bring it up, to elevate it. And that's malchut. This whole parsha, representative of malchut. There's so much more to share, but time is short. And I just want to say that we carry a tremendous, tremendous weight with us. But we have to look at it not as a weight, but as a zchut. Not I have to, right? But I want to. I want to do this because this will bring more kedusha in my home. I want to do this because I'm going to benefit from it. I want to see the good. I want to elevate this because I want my children, my home, to be imbued with the kedusha of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bezrat Hashem, we should be zocheh, that our home should be a home of kedusha, that we should be zocheh to see the good, that we should be zocheh to have shlemut of the zivug, that we should be zocheh to be mashlim ourselves, and we should be zocheh Bezrat Hashem, like Rachel says, that we should be zocheh to come home and be able to be mitached, all of Am Yisrael together, ba'avat Yisrael, ba'avat chinam, and to be zocheh to binyan Beit HaMikdash b'mira me'amenu. I just want to say one more thing. I mentioned it last week. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining me, first of all. And then I wanted to also say I went to a special soup kitchen, amazing woman. It's called O Rachel. Everything there is b'schut Rachel Imenu. So I said, I have to talk about it because I was so emotional, I was so moved. There was somebody who came to speak. They had a beautiful Malava Malka and the schut of Ilulav Rachel Imenu. But really what really threw me is this woman who built the soup kitchen, really with her own, her own gusto, her own desire to just give. She helps hundreds of families, people who don't have mothers, children who don't have mothers, or homebound people, women who are depressed, who can't cook, different situations. She said whatever story they have, she accepts. She doesn't say no, like it doesn't go through the iriyah, the government, the this, the that. She accepts. Where does she get her fun? I was like, how do you survive? She goes, we finish our stack of chicken and the fridge is empty and I daven. And Hashem gives me somebody, and then the next week she said she got a shipment from an organization, it's called Latet, with a whole thing of chickens, because she was supposed to go and get meat from a certain distribution center, a place that they give her for cheaper. He said, come right now. Oh, it was Rami Levy. At that time she said, it was Rami Levy, come. I have chicken now that's on sale, and this, that, I'm going to give it to you, whatever is left. And she couldn't go because she was busy with the kitchen, and finally she got there. There was like a few packages left of like wings. Like you can't do much with wings. She's like, okay, mina shamayim. She comes back. She gets a phone call from this organization. We're bringing you chicken. What kind of chicken? Quarters, chicken quarters. She says, this is all. She said, I was davening. Help us. We need chicken. We want to make something for the families. Same thing. I said another story of she used to make for Shabbat. Now they stopped because it's also very difficult. And she said that she wanted to make fish. Fish is very expensive in Eretz Yisrael. So she said, I want to make fish for the families. And she said, she said, I'm going to get the money for fish. She went to the distributors. Everybody turned her down. There was bizionot. They made fun of her. And she went with another lady. And she said, it's ridiculous. I can't believe this. Like, I want to do it. I want to do this for Hashem. I want to do this for Am Yisrael. Let's go to Kever Rachel and pray. This is her always, She goes to Kever Rachel and they pray like Ima Rachel. מה אנחנו רוצים לעשות? What do we want to do? לשמח את עם ישראל, his children want to bring simcha to the homes of Am Yisrael. Help us. They leave Kever Rachel. She gets a phone call. There's a man who once donated before. He says, listen, I want to give you money to go buy fish. She didn't call him. She didn't even ask him. Whatever fish you want, you get the best fish for Am Yisrael. Go and buy it. And he sends her a credit card. This is a credit card. She goes, okay. She gives him the receipts. Don't show me the receipts. This is for Am Yisrael. Could you imagine such a thing? Nisim. So I want to ask if anybody has tzedakah money, if you could help us to be ambassadors, to be able to help them. I felt like tremendous, wow, like look at these, Mikam Chayei, this woman started with her mother and her sisters. I called it Or Rachel because I see the light that comes from there, feeding the children, feeding the needy. If anybody would like to contribute, please reach out to me. And it should be a zchut for you. She said she'll get the kollel to daven for you and your children. If you want to give names, B'ezrat Hashem, it should be a zchut for everybody. So if you can, there's a zchut for Or Rachel, for Ima Rachel, and the zchut of Rachel Imenu, Sarah Imenu, all the imahot and avot. May you see yeshuot, b'sorot tovot. Thank you so much. Thank you, ladies, for joining here.